pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We have a set of minutes from February 4th to approve. Do I have a motion? Motion by Walt, second by Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Do we have any old business? I think we have some later, but public comment? Sorry. Anybody have anything to say? You're right, Judy. Thanks. All right, moving on to new business. First on the agenda, I think there was a flip-flop appropriate information. It was not attached, but I think you have it now, correct?
Was this about the sheriff?
No, first one, land use. You have grant proceeds to appropriate?
I was confused by that.
Yes.
I kept looking for it.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. The Land Use Department will kind of award a grant from CMAC in 2012 for $200,000. $160,000 was their portion, and $40,000 was our in-kind portion. We had budgeted for that in 12 and 13. We were hoping to have the project completed in 13. The project is on target now for this month. Before you, at the county board meeting, we're hoping to have the comprehensive plan for Route 53 corridor. So in order to finish that project, though, we still have one more bill that we're going to have to pay our consultants, and because we hadn't finished the project in 13, we're asking for a budget adjustment of $3,547.53, and of course this is a reimbursable grant that the county will receive the money back.
So we haven't got it yet, so that's why it has to be appropriated in the revenue side also.
Yes, we have to do the work first and pay the consultant and seek reimbursement, which we have been reimbursed completely for all the work prior, so we'll have one more submittal to CMAP to finish out this grant.
Anybody have any questions? Motion.
Second.
Motion by Walt, second by Margot.
Quick discussion.
Comments?
Yeah, when the money comes back in, that goes into our general fund.
Harry? Yes.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the appropriation of more grant money in workforce investment. I think this one was cash property.
Morning. Back in December, Waste Management presented the county board with a check for $50,000 for this grant, and we now need to appropriate it into the workforce investment board budget. We are putting it into our contractual line. What we'll do, this money is for internships for veterans that have gone through training, and we'll do an agreement with an employer, pay them directly the funds, and the veteran would be their employee during the internship, so we wouldn't have any liability for employment or workers' comp.
Walt, second by Chuck.
I just want to thank Waste Management for the veterans donation for the next, I believe, 3 years.
3 years, $50,000 a year, and we'll serve.
And much appreciated for the residents of the county, especially for the veterans too. So hats off to Waste Management.
And how many veterans do you think we're going to be getting through this, and how are we reaching out to the different associations out there to let them know this is available?
We're thinking somewhere between 10 to 15 veterans per year. Part of it's going to depend on the kinds of skills they have coming in. We've been working with regional VA folks that have a facility out at Silver to identify some veterans. We already do work out there every month with their job club, so we'll work with them to do that. We also have a career manufacturing program that we've had a lot of interest from veterans, so we'll be able to make this connection with veterans that are interested in manufacturing training and then some internship skill building as well.
Are you reaching out to some of the Will County Veterans Associations? Because, sometimes veterans participate with the Veterans Administration, sometimes they don't. They're tired of all that and they want something different. And so
we can do that. We actually had put together a grant proposal to the Department of Labor, so we reached out to all the veterans associations at that time. So we've got contacts there. That's a good point there. We can make those connections.
Thank you.
So is it anticipated that they might be full-time?
We've committed to Waste Management that we will only place veterans in internships where the company has a job opening, so that there is an opportunity for that person to continue with that job. The
So this is
company-
OJT, this isn't just an internship, this is
Well,
like on-the-job training?
Not necessarily. If the company wants to do it that way, we can, but we're not requiring the company to make a commitment to hire until after they've had a chance to work with the veteran on this internship basis.
Which gives them a 90-day
Absolutely.
leeway, that kind of thing, that's
Yeah,
normal.
try out.
Yeah,
They'll have the opportunity to interview the veterans up front. So we're hoping that they're thinking about their full-time position as they're doing the interview with the veteran.
please bring back to us the statistics on how we're doing with this
Absolutely.
and what kind of jobs these folks are getting, to see if we're looking to expand our grant opportunities.
That's great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion. We have, I mean, say, we vote. Thank you, so, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. At least lose track sometimes. Next up is records management, Mike Thompson. This is for transferring funds to purchase a copier, I believe?
Yes, to replace one of my machines with the state's attorney.
Okay. Do we have any, do we have a motion? Moved by
Second.
Wald, second by Margot. Do we have any questions? Ken?
Leasing rather than purchasing?
Pardon me?
The leasing rather than purchasing?
In general, we keep them, it balances out. There's no, what do I say, from what I've seen, there's no, it just balances out. We don't gain that much out of it.
Make the model that you're purchasing?
Yes, I do, I don't have a list.
Xerox?
Yes.
That's our current contract.
No, what we did is, since it's under $10,000, we took 3 quotes. We took the lowest of the 3 quotes that we received. So, it's purchased off the state contract. Xerox has a state contract, so, I guess technically we can have you take 3 quotes.
Who maintains?
Xerox maintains.
Separate maintenance fee with the update.
There's a monthly maintenance fee of $179, which is about $600 less a month than what we're paying right now for the current machine.
Toner and supplies?
Pardon me?
Toner and supplies?
Yes, toner supplies, staples, separate paper, so it's the whole deal. It's a really good buy.
Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion carries. And then we have, on this one, we do have an updated handout with the vehicle purchases. Nate? You're up. Allison? Good morning. Good morning. So we did this last year. Did we do this the year before that also?
Yes.
Out of this one?
Yes,
And this is basically the only source of new vehicles over the last few years.
that's correct.
So, anything else you want to add?
No. No, other than we desperately need the vehicle, so.
Do we have a motion to get it on the floor? Moved by Walt, second by Chuck. Any questions on this?
It seemed like really good prices.
I bought one.
Can you, how many vehicles are you looking to retire in this, do you know?
We will retire at least the 15 that we're purchasing for the condition of the vehicle in fleet. It's probably close to 30.
And this has a, you've been able to chance to really look at this warranty, how are we warranting this? Do we have any extended warranties that you guys do?
We do not personally extend the warranty and share it in the manufacturing warranty.
Okay. So should we beat up your 6 weeks anyway?
I hope to get a longer life.
I hope you do too.
They do maintain their vehicles pretty well. The average odometer readings are pretty high.
Yeah. I think the average is about 175,000 miles per year.
That's, well, they can.
175,000?
Mine's
No.
199.
The prices seem good, but, you know, have we ever explored the possibility of hybrid vehicles that have been out there on the market for a while? You know, we could save some extra money perhaps with, when we figure in fuel costs. So have we ever explored that? I mean, we ought to maybe take a look at possibly perhaps a hybrid vehicle.
We are looking at it, researching alternative vehicles.
Several models have, if you look at consumer reports, have done quite well over the years. And now Chevy Bolt, one of the Prius, yes, hybrid. We might want to explore the possibility.
We are researching
This funding is the wood scale fund?
Yes.
Well, the revenues come from fines. Does this also include off-duty? No.
No.
This is fines for AUI and overweight?
Fines for overweight trucks.
And that the balance in that account totally is roughly,
620,000 roughly.
so, I mean, if you wanted to buy some more, you could probably find some dollars in there to get some more this year.
We're looking at
Fund is a stretch out there, right?
the fund was originally established to support the traffic enforcement activities.
Well, mostly to keep track of the revenues coming in. I don't think there's any I don't think it's very detailed in the restrictions on expenses as long as it's for the sheriff's department.
Correct.
Can't we send it also?
I don't think
You would want to put it there because you don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
Salaries will be constant, that will not be.
Exactly. It's fluctuating. Only one of the times we're going to do is much public enforcement. So that balance is fluctuating.
Are these vehicles shared among different officers, or are they given and assigned to an officer who's responsible?
The vehicle is assigned to an officer who is responsible for it.
Okay. And is it a one-on-one match with our guys on the road, or do they have extra vehicles?
We maintain approximately 20 to 25 vehicles to use.
Fleet outside.
As a vehicle is for repair, like stage repairs, and even vehicle use to get to the
20 vehicles, how many officers do you have?
there is 179 deputies. There are 12 lieutenants and 34 sergeants.
And all of them have their own cars.
Each of them are assigned to vehicle that's maintain about 343 vehicles, trailers, support vehicles, tow trucks, vans, and transport prisoners, refrigerated trucks for the EMS. So approximately 143 vehicles and support equipment.
We should be getting good prices.
Yes,
Steve?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a question because we're not doing it now, but I brought it up to different people in the last couple of months. It's time to bring it out to the sheriff's department publicly. I told different people. I told you too. We don't charge a booking fee to the cities that drop off the prisoners at the ADF, and we should be charging a booking fee for booking them, and then a housing fee until they go to court. And let the cities pay that fee to us. And we're not doing it. We're losing out on a whole lot of revenue by not doing that. And what's happening is that we're finding shortfalls, like when we were talking about line items in the budget. We find revenue to come in. And that's one way that we could do it. And I think I don't know if that's a policy that we as our county board create, or if it's something that the sheriff's department creates, or we work in tandem to come up with a plan. But there's a lot of money on the table that we're doing for all these various cities.
We've had conversations about this issue, about some other issues that we're handling things for municipalities. That all needs to be vetted, and I'm sure that some kind of intergovernmental agreement would have to be in place in order to charge that. So it's in the process. It doesn't have anything to do with
That's what I was thinking,
this
you know,
topic.
I was figuring you didn't need an intergovernmental agreement. If they're bringing their prisoners to our jail for booking, because they don't want to pay for booking in their own city, and then they don't want to pay for housing in their own city, so we house them until they go to court, you know.
Yeah,
It's our responsibility. Now, we can, the sheriff can put a process in place. He can say, I'm gonna take people at these hours, you hold them until we decide to bring them in. But it is the county's responsibility, it's not, it's what our duties are, Mary.
Right. And I mean, the hours he would set would also be limited. He can't put them off forever and say, you know, come back in 5 days. Typically, he can reject them if there are medical reasons, and he can't reject them once a judge adjudicates and remands them to the custody of the sheriff. They're ours.
I'm talking about before they go to court. They come in, don't we book them, and we don't get paid for it?
You can say, we intake people from 6 in the morning till 9 o'clock in the morning. You can do that. And then say you hold them otherwise, I mean, whatever reasonable hours. You can say we take them from 6 till noon, and after that you hold them. You can do that. But you can't refuse to take them and say, oh, we're going to charge you. It's the county's responsibility.
Yeah. And then, like I said, we've had some conversations. We'd like to have, we'd like to use some of this information to work with the municipalities to maybe do some intergovernmental agreements. That's my idea. Not necessarily restrict their dropping off the arrested people, but to maybe say, okay, we're doing these things for you, why can't you do something for me, kind of thing. So then that's a discussion for another meeting. And I know you're chomping at the bit, but this is a process. So at this point in time, we're talking about vehicles. So Nate, possibly, if you may expand this at a later date to include some additional vehicles. And
Yes,
because we'd like to get to around 25 or so per year, and we'll see what else we have in our budget finance. But we got a bunch of other money we got to come up with first. Anybody have any other questions about the vehicles? We have a motion? We have a motion, right?
Motion and a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay, cleanups. We've swept up a lot. Is this the final yet, right?
No, we'll probably have one more. You know,
She's still working on it.
The last day of the lapse period was just Friday, so we're probably still going to have our cleanup. This is everything I was able to get together for today. The first 3 lines are something that we don't do regularly. It hasn't happened in a couple of years. When we put the budget together, the corporate fund includes the cost of FICA and pension as we calculate it. Those expenses are funded by the FICA and IMRF funds, which are levy funds.
Right.
This year, we've exceeded what our budget was. The actual expense occurs at corporate quarterly. We transfer out of the FICA and IMRF funds into corporate to reimburse for that cost. So we have exceeded that. It hasn't happened since 2006, I think. So you have to clean up in three steps. The first one is incorporate the transfer in, which is similar to a revenue account. That would need to be increased. The transfers out in the 2 special funds, FICA and IMRF, so the transfer out matches the actual. And then in the various department budgets, which I haven't included the list here because it's every department. Some are over, some are under, and to wash that, you have to list each of them. So I will provide that before exec, if you
That's
need
why we
to
only
see
have
that.
the one side.
Right, because all we're doing is increasing, we're not decreasing anywhere else, because the whole cost is borne by those two special funds.
Right.
So that's the only unusual thing on the cleanup. The other ones are typical, with the exception of the phone bills between finance and IT. You know, when we're budgeting, we're estimating the cell bill was less cumulatively this year, where the regular telephone service was a little higher. So we're covering that shortfall for the IT department. The rest of the funds, though, they're just moving budget around to cover within their own departments.
They're pretty small.
Right, and I really don't expect there to be a lot on the final cleanup, but I don't want to say this is the last one until, I mean, we're still halfway in one year and half in another, so we still have things to do.
Why are these items over budget when they haven't been since 2006?
Why are the
FICA,
first three?
Yeah.
One of the causes is that I have to record the liability to the county for any union contracts. Whether we've paid them or not, they are a liability to the county, so that is not included in our budget. Anyone that exceeds their budget in the salary category is not included in the budget that we put together. So if overtime has been exceeded or any other salary-related line, there is no way to correct that during the year.
All right, so the fact that the budget awards came in December,
If the county is liable for retroactive pay for any fiscal year up through November 2013, we have to book it back. Even if it's paid in 14, it's a liability of the county in 2013. So
is this as a result, I mean, how much of this is a result of the union awards being made in December? Do we know? Is it like 80% of this, half of it?
Yes, I would say it's close to 80%.
So by far the majority is
is
the
labor
union
contracts,
contracts
yes,
coming in before
yes.
the end of the year.
And that doesn't happen every year, so that's why this would be a little bit unusual.
Well, you wouldn't anticipate that
Right,
necessarily.
right.
Okay, and the rest of it is the other 20% is associated with overtime in departments that we didn't necessarily,
Budget properly.
that we didn't budget or they didn't budget?
Well, a combination of both. We're not funding step increases, and although most departments are able to work through that, not everyone is. And by the time it gets to finance, employees have already worked, we cannot pay them.
Okay, are we gonna name names on which departments that is?
Not today. Not today.
The list will be available before the board meeting.
Well, I think it's our job to monitor that.
It isn't any different than what you've been looking at every month.
All right, so I know who it is, okay.
Then, just quick clarification. So we're transferring out of FICA and IMRF an additional amount of funds to be distributed amongst various corporate
Yes,
accounts.
yes.
So the third grouping should be in the from category?
No,
Missing something?
all we're doing is increasing the budget in these three places. We're increasing the budget in the FICA and IMRF fund to match what has actually happened. So there is no to and from. We're just, the actual expenditure that was transferred out into corporate is short for FICA $121,000. So we're just adjusting the budget to match the actual expenditure.
Now my next question is, do we have money sitting
Yes.
out there in FICA and IMRF?
Yes, they have a whole year's worth of
So
cash all the time.
All right, so now 2014 is gonna be short. Or we have an extra year.
Well, we're spending more than we plan to spend. They have our FICA, well, IMRF is easier. That's roughly $16 million. We keep it funded at that level, and as the levy funds come in, it replenishes it. But if this happened every year, then we would be eroding our reserve in those two funds.
We try to keep a reserve in these funds similar to the corporate.
Well, that was my question. Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
don't have my budget book in front of me.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
we try to keep a reserve of 1 year in there at all times, but, and again, this is.
So there's more in there than just what we need for 2014 is what you're saying?
Well, there's a full year in there, and as the levy dollars come in, it replenishes.
We reserve
So,
a year.
yeah, so at all times, there should be a year in there.
Okay, except our years are getting bigger.
Right.
Okay, I don't think we have a motion. Do we have a motion to accept these changes? Moved by Walt, second by Judy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you very much. All right. We have, any other new business, not that I know of? Good. Yeah, we didn't, do you have an update for maybe later for next week or something like that, or do you have it now?
No, I wasn't gonna do it this month
Okay.
because I can't really do
No.
November yet, and I can't really do 14.
Right.
I mean, not that I can't
No,
do
it's
them, but
okay.
the numbers are really,
You usually have a pretty good pulse on our cash. Are we staying pretty much in line with what our cash balances have been in the past?
yes. And I will have something for next month. I'll either do a final for 2013, or I'll do a 2014 year to
But
date.
we're staying on track with
Yes.
comparables to previous years.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
If anyone has specific questions, you can certainly email me and I can address them. But I don't normally do a monthly update this time of year because of the flux between the
There's
two
too much
years.
stuff.
We're
still,
we're
still
still
being
flipping things back and forth. So I'm hesitant to report things in 2014 when we're gonna pull revenue or expenses and push them in the prior year.
Right. No, that's right. But cash doesn't usually change, so.
Right.
And that's been staying comparable. Any other questions? Okay, now we would have a motion to adjourn and take a quick recess and then move into our joint meeting to discuss financial
moved.
impact. Second by Margot, second by Walt, all in favor?
Aye.
Good job, Karen.
I'm here.
Harris.
Here.
Mayor. McDermott.
Here.
Ella. Here. Junior. Sherry.
Here.
Hart. Izzo.
Here.
Winfrey. Wilhelmie.
Here.
And Zubrowski. We also have Mr. Brooks and Mr. Musis.
Thank you. Do we also have the increases including the one from finance as well? Perfect.
Yes.
Part is in that. From the house.
Raise the-
Watch out.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Continuation from our previous meeting, finance. At this point in time, we will go into the factual discussion, which will be presented by Karen in terms of the estimated cost, the arbitration order for the deputies. So Karen, if you'd like to come forward, please.
I'm loud. I believe everyone should have a handout. This is an estimate I prepared. It's been reviewed by the Sheriff's Department and by Human Resources. For fiscal year 12 and 13, the step has already been paid to the deputies, so this salary amount would be the cost of living of 2.5%. That also goes back to affect anyone that retired during those times. We have to go back and amend their payouts to include that step increase, that COLA increase.
Karen, how was this paid out?
It hasn't been paid out.
It hasn't been paid
No,
out.
it hasn't.
Yeah, I thought you said it was.
The steps
The
were.
steps.
No, the
Pay
steps,
increases are,
yeah, the step increases happen annually. The cost of living hasn't. Now for
Wait,
fiscal,
I'm confused. We haven't done the retro thing. Right.
no, in the retro pay for this contract only includes the COLA.
And you haven't done we've only done step movement, so we haven't done the additional amount of stuff that was put on by the arbitrator?
I did,
I'm confused.
The step increases did not change through arbitration. The cost of living, it was 2.5%. That has not been paid out. The step increases happen annually. They're already built in the wage scales.
Doesn't that go into the step plan, the 2.5%?
It will going forward. Retroactively, it doesn't. There's a retroactive pay process that the payroll department has to do to make that
What
happen.
are the deputies' steps? What is the amount of their step?
Before this arbitration happened, their average step increase was 5.27%.
Okay.
And it's still 5.27%. Now it's been amended to include the cost of living of 2.5%.
On top of the five?
Yes.
Yes.
So they've got 7%?
7.77.
Compound.
7.7.
The arbitrator thought that was fair line.
Are there steps every year?
Yes. Until they get topped out. And they happen on their anniversary dates rather than at the same time each year.
And these are
And
steps.
the comp time, when they get their step raise, so all the hours they have in comp time go up to the step raise, plus when they get a actual raise, so in other words, their comp time is based at, like fictitious numbers, $10 an hour, and then 10 years later, they're making $15 an hour, so all that comp time now is at $15 an hour?
Yes.
Don't you find that troublesome?
I find lots of things troublesome.
She's on your program.
She agrees.
Actual numbers person, which I do have a question.
You know, it was actually, it's similar to where Steve was going there. Where this is separate from any raises. It just goes to-
Well, these are the
Yeah,
raises.
but when you say step, our previous contract, step means they're gonna get this, and then they're negotiating add to this.
No,
Just a COLA.
this is it. I'm trying to separate what's retroactive, so they've already been paid wages for fiscal year 12 and fiscal year 13 that included a step increase of 5.27. The arbitrator's decision says that should have been 5.27 plus 2.5. So our retroactive, we have to go back and amend the pay for 2 years by 2.5%. Okay, going forward, their new steps will be a combination of 5.27 plus 2.5.
Which is 7.7.
Yes, yes, yes.
They just like sevens.
Lucky number.
Steve?
Paul had his hand up.
Might want to also keep in mind, when she's talking the retro, you have to calculate the retro of any overtime within that 2-year period, any court time within that 2-year period, any holiday pay within that 2-year period. Again, the step raises that occurred in that 2-year period that's in that contract. And we're not even with the other 2 locals because they're in arbitration.
Did you start paying the step increases this fiscal year?
The step increases, like she says, automatically happen.
Yeah, so they're
All right.
already started this.
The pay increase that happened with the 2.5, was it? I wasn't aware that was going to occur because I would not have allowed it. I would have stopped it. And when I found out, even my own payroll department didn't even know it occurred. I told everybody I don't want it to happen. And I made calls down here, and when they started the calculating, I said, well, we'll help you calculate. But there's no contract signed, nobody's ratified this, nobody's okayed this. I don't want it
So
to
that
happen.
has not gone,
No.
correct.
Well, I don't think it needs to be ratified, Paul. It's a judgment. I mean, this takes no action by the county board whatsoever. This is an administrative function. This has been a judgment, just like from a judge. We're out of it. We don't have to do anything as far as that's concerned. So if you're waiting for the county board to ratify it, I think you might wait a long time. It doesn't need to be ratified by the county board. And I would ask the state's attorney, to make a comment on that. I've asked Mary before.
Mary's up here.
Yeah, Mary.
I'm up here.
Oh, you get us a big table.
I'm no longer at the kids' table.
I've asked Mary this question, and she's indicated to me that it's a judgment. It does require no action by us.
Now,
Well, I do have to look into it. It may be that the county executive should go ahead and sign the contract, but I'll look at that. But as far as having to vote on it, it's not like the county board has an option. Their only vote would be whether they wanted to appeal the decision. If they chose not to appeal the decision, then they're required to implement it.
And I suppose, Mr. Berkshire has summarized, so.
Yeah.
There you are, okay. You know, I assume that you can take that up at executive committee if you choose, and that is, I don't think we intend on trying to fight this. Matter of fact, some time is going by, we can be.
And I think we're gonna discuss that in executive
Going
session.
to go into an
It's
executive.
real narrow, it's really narrow what we
But,
can.
yeah, I think we're gonna talk about it in
We'll have a
executive
discussion,
session.
Jim, in executive session following the factual data.
So anyways,
Sheriff,
we don't need to.
did you say that 2.5% is holiday pay, overtime, and then we, on top of holiday overtime pay and everything?
Everything has to be adjusted to what they were in the retro. So it doesn't only affect their step rates per se. Whatever they had in overtime in that period, you've got to adjust. Whatever was in holiday pay has to be adjusted. Whatever they had in court pay has to be, even, I believe, even if they had in the overweight truck fund, if they worked that detail, anything that they worked has to be readjusted.
Well, who's doing that, Paul? I mean, is your office doing it? Is the payroll department doing it?
Our payroll department worked with them in order to get them some kind of figures, because we actually got the records as to what time that they worked and what time frame.
So it's really, at this point, it's really just an administrative function of
Yes.
figuring out the dollars.
Right,
Yeah,
and like she said, even the ones that retired.
yeah, we gotta get them a check, yeah.
Is apparent for 2012, 2013, the numbers that you have here as far as totals, is that representative of what has been garnered or what we need to pay?
Yes, yes. That's the best estimate we can come up with, taking all those things into consideration.
My question is, it says here deputies 104. When we were discussing the vehicles, it was deputies 179.
And I apologize, that is their benefit grouping in payroll, their
That's not-
contract. Their,
Oh, that's not the number of deputies?
no, that's not,
That's
so
an
I
accounting.
apologize, it's a
Oh,
way we
okay.
segregate them in payroll by their
It's
labor contract.
So this is for the 179 deputies as they come and go by
Yes.
retirement hiring. Thank you. I'm like, there's a big difference between 104 and 179.
I apologize for that.
No, that's,
Has the FICA been reflected in the cleanup?
Yes, yes, the FICA and the SLUP are both in that cleanup number that we just saw.
Each of the columns.
Okay, then for 14 and 15, this would be the cost of the step and the COLA, which is now one rate, but for us to calculate, we had to do it separately. So the total cost for fiscal year 12 and 13 combined is a little under 1.5 million. For the 14 and 15, it's roughly 3. It's another thing I didn't.
What if on this meeting,
Sorry.
going forward, just had to ask me contract, and on this contract, we got two others up there, as far as budget, I mean,
What is this policy?
That's why we're having a joint meeting.
We're gonna listen to,
Yeah.
basically, I think we're gonna listen to the committee members and try to figure something out from there.
Let's hear.
Well, where will it come from, Steve? What would this?
are we going to discuss that next session?
No, it's going to be discussed here, because that's considered factual
Okay,
data.
discuss.
You can
we
discuss
can
that in
discuss it.
open because it's factual data.
Right.
Anything concerning any type of contractual type.
No, no.
I have not identified the source at
Okay,
this point,
okay, that's it.
but that's why I figured the committee could weigh in. It's not just my decision.
Okay.
Have you got any suggestions on finance? In terms of where Steve might be able to find one?
No. To make it easy, no.
Bad answer.
If nothing is done to amend the budget, you're, by not doing anything to amend the budget, you're using cash reserves. Once the decision is made to pay this, it's gonna come out of cash reserves unless the budget's amended some other way.
That's what we're gonna have to talk about.
Yeah. And any amendment you would make to the budget would have to be out of cash reserves. We don't have a new revenue source to cover it. And there isn't really anywhere that you're going to be able to cut $2 million.
It's shorter than the $3 million anyways.
But that's just this contract.
With the judge's determination, is there a time frame in which we need to pay this out by? Is there a certain time frame or can we?
Not that I know of.
I don't know that there was a date certain, but you will be required to do it in reasonable amount of time. So, I mean, whatever it generally takes to calculate figures and issue the checks. So you can't delay it for 6 or 8 months, something like that.
I mean, typically the practice is we do it within a few months of the decision or contract being signed. So I think we're getting close to that.
Is there a mandate when the contract should be signed?
That's
up in the air.
That we just talked about.
Take that can out.
It's not really a signature necessary, it's been mandated by the courts.
Perhaps what we want to do is attach the judgment from the arbitrator. Attach his decision to the contract, and then maybe the county executive would sign it pursuant to the term, the judgment attached.
Okay, so getting back to Steve, this is back in.
Do we want to have our short presentation from the sheriff's department now before we talk about funding?
Sure.
Probably appropriate.
We're probably going to have to stand because there's not enough room in this room. Proceed with the presentation.
One chair.
We can move around.
You want that I'm fine.
Okay, okay.
Rebate money.
Oh, that's for me?
Rebate money from Light Energy.
Oh, okay.
7,000 for the work we did at business.
The data, yeah.
3,000 for health furnace.
Okay.
And this is paid out of the 80.
I want to show you how
Municipal budget
is,
so we can do
the arbitration and staffing affects the sheriff's office.
Go to Debbie Jones, she
We're going to
put it
start
back
out
in
with
the right.
staffing.
Yes.
When a lot of people look at the sheriff's office, they see a number. We have a total of 596 full-time employees. That's how they're broken down. And then we have a few part-time employees, so we have a total number of employees, we have our 636 employees. You notice they're not all deputies, so when a lot of people think of the sheriff's office, they think of just deputies. So they're broken down in other divisions over here. We're going to go through that for you. Start with staffing vacancies. These are the vacancies that are in the sheriff's office. We have 10 funded and 17 unfunded vacancies for a total of 27 unfunded vacancies. And that's where they lie. Took our budget here, we broke it down into basically the cost center, so where you see staff total and the amount requested. As you can see by that, we're roughly $6.3 million less than what we requested. The numbers that we had for salary and benefit, those are based on numbers of staff. Those are based on actual bodies. So those numbers are pretty much hard and fast numbers. Here's the sheriff's administration. Roughly 23 people assigned to administration. When you look at administration, one of the things we have in there is our IT people.
they have to maintain 80 in-car cameras, 170 island computers, 475 PCs, 31 laptops. 31 servers, I'm sorry. Last year, they did over 4,300 work orders just on our computer equipment.
And there are approximately 4 people assigned to IT department. 2 of them are IT techs who are responsible for maintaining the majority of things.
This is our enforcement staff. This would be on a good day. 17 people per shift. 1 lieutenant, 3 sergeants, and then the deputies assigned. We have to work out, we have a relief factor. So when you see 3 lieutenants up here, there actually takes 5 lieutenants to fill those 3 spots. We have to take and count days off, vacations, sick, training, whatever. Those numbers for the deputies can get down as low as 14 deputies or less with 2 sergeants for the whole county. You consider 14 deputies, 2 sergeants for 850 some odd square miles and about 150,000 people in the unincorporated area. That's not a lot of staffing. There's school resource officers. These schools are in unincorporated areas. This was originally set up by grant. The grant has expired. We believe that this is a good deterrent to have a deputy in the school. Homer Glenn. Homer Glenn is contracted law enforcement. When you look at the contract calls for 3 sergeants at 56 hours, 9 deputies at 56 hours, 1 relief deputy, 1 traffic deputy. When you break it down, that's where we come up with the 15 deputies and the sergeants, the 5 sergeants we have. Last year they had contract brought in over $3.6 million into the county. There's also county overhead in there. The county gets roughly $92,000 for other services that are rendered through the county through administrative services. This is our 13th year of this contract.
Quick question on the contract.
Yes, sir.
Is this, are they paying us our actual rate, and will that rate go up because of the new arbitration?
They pay the actual rate, benefits, they pay for the stickers on the squad cars, they pay for the uniforms, they pay for our telecommunicators, they pay for everything.
So basically, there is no cost to the county with this group?
Not at all. They cover our costs and then some.
And because we have contractual obligations to fill the staffing at Homer Glen, whenever staff is short of Homer Glen due to someone having called in sick unexpectedly, that deputy is replaced by a deputy in patrol, which impacts that number 17. And currently they're functioning with 14 deputies per shift.
We are contracted for those hours at Homer Glen. Telecommunicators, this is a rough idea what you would have per shift. Generally, is much less because of, again, sick time, whatever. Last year, 157,487 telephone calls, and they dispatched 147,500 calls for service. Investigations. Break it down to 24 people assigned to investigations. Last year, 667 cases, including 2 homicides. They were cleared by arrest. We also have a high-tech computer unit. They handled 143 cases. And then you can see our crime scene investigation unit there also.
And I'm sure you can imagine with the increased use of technology, the crimes that are committed via some type of technology has increased the need in order to maintain that unit. So it is very, very efficient, certainly very valuable work.
Our gang suppression unit, warrants. At one time, warrants was staffed with 1 lieutenant, 1 sergeant, and 10 deputies. Our warrant unit now is basically working more as a transport unit because we don't have the bodies to go out and actually serve warrants. they're picking up bodies at other courthouses or at jails, and bringing them back to Will County on outstanding warrants.
Is there any particular reason why the sheriff's and police on patrol can't issue warrants as well?
Issue or pick up.
Or just, I guess, pick up?
They'll pick up if they run into someone, or maybe a
Locally.
department, local, right.
No, they can do that, but the one division, all they're doing is transfer. In the morning, they get a list of places they have to go, 5 in Cook County, 6 in DuPage, and then they gotta load up and go.
I see.
And when he explains that there used to be a lieutenant, sergeant, 10 deputies for that before, there's only 1 sergeant and 4 deputies now. So instead of actually going out and searching for warrants, like it used to be, they just got a shovel and they're picking up the garbage. I mean, that's all I got. They get the call, they go transport, that's all.
This is our fleet maintenance. The number they changed, they have 344 vehicles. The squad car that I was assigned was taken out of service today because it just, the frame was rusted, no longer viable to use. So those are the people that are assigned to fleet maintenance. This is not just an oil change when a car comes in for service. This vehicle gets preventative maintenance. They take the car apart. They're checking the brakes, they're checking any kind of problems, all the lights on the car. They are downloading the cameras that are in the car. So this is not just pull in, get an oil change, and get out. They're very well maintained cars. That's how we can maintain these cars for over 150,000+ miles. We go to the jail over here. The jail is a different animal. In patrol, if we're short in the zone or short people, we can take those zones and expand them. So we can make them a little bit bigger, and instead of having 3 deputies, work with 2 deputies. In the jail, we can't do that. So if someone were to call in sick, we can't tell a deputy, well, today you're gonna do A-pod and C-pod. There has to be a deputy assigned to that. So if you break down over here, there are, on the day shift, 39 positions. On the afternoon shift, 38 and a half. Where do we get a half? If you look up there, you see .05 in the lobby. After that person starts his shift, they would take over another position in the jail and help out there. And then on the midnight shift, we have 35 people. County commissioned an audit in 2010, and that audit called for 228 deputies. Right now, we're staffing at the 211.
And that audit was done when we had less population at 650 and we're running 750 now.
These are other staffing details, support services, the accreditation, your pre-holding facility, visitation, classification. These are all essential positions to fulfill the obligations of that jail and make sure that we take care of the people that are our guests.
What's the CI?
That is a
coordinator.
That person does commissary, laundry, inventory, and I forget what the other is. What that person's doing is it's basically a relief coordinator. So when the laundry person is off, that person is filling that hole.
I don't pass access to it. That's CI?
L. Food service. We're not only running a hotel, we're running a restaurant. We're serving 3 meals a day, 365 days a year. That's 2,550 meals per day, 930,750 meals per year. We're just short of doing what McDonald's does.
I thought Aramark was providing that service. Was that to juvenile?
That's a juvenile.
Is there any particular reason why we can't?
We used to do RVJ, we don't do it no more.
Why is that?
We had to transport it from our building to their building because at the time they didn't have a kitchen.
No, I'm saying, is there any particular reason why we can't segue into a contract with a vendor to provide these services?
Are you still keeping your food costs down by going around and talking cost of denominations?
The food costs are way down. cost.
I think that's probably it. You know, we get the donations from like 80 businesses between Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, is that right? And by doing that, then our costs stay down dramatically. You get a food vendor in there, he ain't gonna get those free donations.
Right.
So it's gonna go up. And when we used to do RVJ, it's because they were in the facility. Once we did the expansion and they did their, their building, they moved out and took care of their own business.
Self-defense facility transports and court holding. Look at transports up there, there's 8 deputies and 1 sergeant for a total of 9. So they are transporting 80+ people a day from the adult detention facility to the courthouse. Additionally, they're taking inmates to doctor's offices, TB clinics, out of county for court cases, and other court-ordered writs. So they're transporting people all the time. Court holding, those are the people that work in the old jail. They're downstairs in the basement of the courthouse, and they're monitoring the inmates that come over for court, taking them upstairs for their hearings. So when you see that number down there, transported 20,933 inmates, that inmate was handled 4 times by the time he left the ADF and got to court. Because he's searched, coming out of his pod, leaving the getting into court holding, coming down from court holding, and back to the ADF. We transport a lot of people. ADF records. These are administrative correctional clerks. Several years ago, we opted to put administrative correctional clerks doing the bookings at the jail. This took out the correctional deputies that did that. They booked in just under 11,000 admissions to the jail last year. Not only do they book in the people, they make sure that their court dates are met, that they are released properly. They're doing all the paperwork. So they're handling a lot of essential paper. Facility maintenance. This is supervisor, building and grounds, part-time for the 5 buildings that the sheriff's office has. The Eagle Building, the ADF, Laraway, Creek, and Peyton Farm. When you think of the ADF, that's 2 square blocks, that building. It's a huge building. If you go in it, you'll find out it's probably one of the cleanest detention facilities you're going to find in the area. That's because of this staff. They're also cleaning up biohazards. They're not cleaning up what you might consider a normal biohazard, which would be soiled sheets. They're cleaning up the cell of the inmate with the mental issues that is written on the wall with feces or whatever. They're doing a pretty dirty job over there.
Have you explored these vendor for these services?
I don't know if you want someone from the outside coming in, we can explore it, but I don't know if you want someone from the outside coming in and dealing with inmates. Because all the background checks and everything else, that has to go into that person.
And to go in the cell, I mean, you call an outside agency, they're gonna be there in 10 minutes? Or do we have to lock it down?
Are these people on facility? These people are on ground, so you're talking about 2 shifts, you're there.
They're correct, they're there. And they've already been background checked, they're already cleared to go behind a locked institution.
Our craftsmen. Again, we're running a hotel over here that's open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and the vacancy sign never goes out. So, toilets, 700 toilets, 750 sinks, 60 showers. When a toilet gets plugged over here, it's not get the plunger. They're usually
going to details. Details.
They're blocked up because somebody stuffed a blanket down there.
And it goes to a junction pipe, which then blocks the whole one side of the cell block.
We have our own locksmith, 1,500 to 2,000 locks they're maintaining.
And these are correctional grade locks, so the training and experience of the locksmith exceeds that of the locksmith that you call to repair broken lock at your home.
Inmates ordered to pay restitution?
We,
Blanket non-type or whatever?
if we can catch the inmate that did it, we will charge them.
And in most cases, they don't have the money to pay, but in those cases where we can recoup our costs, we do.
The individual cells do not have cameras.
Not allowed to have
Do they get privacy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're not allowed to have it. There's 320 some
It should be.
cameras,
60 some.
360 cameras throughout the whole facility. There's just some spots that won't allow you to put.
This is what we call our cop security or court security. We have a lieutenant. The lieutenant is now doing double duty. She was at one time the sergeant in charge of civil process, but she's not only doing court security, but she's also handling the civil process section. So with that, we have another sergeant court security, the video surveillance officers, 2 of them for the courthouse and the court annex, and 13 deputies assigned to court security. 12 of those are at the courthouse, 1 is at the annex. So in a normal court day, the deputy would go into a courtroom where there are custodies. So we may have enough people at that time. But if we start going to trials, now we have to have 2 deputies for that inmate because most of them have to be unshackled and uncuffed. And if it's a high profile, or if the person is a bigger danger or a threat, we're going to have more people in that courtroom, so we can start spreading our deputies. They're pretty slim. Civil process, they're handling the papers, serving process. Last year, 721,000 people through the court, almost 7,100 papers, and 836 questions handled by our office. These are part-time court security officers. They are retired police officers. They work for the sheriff's office. Those are some of the positions that they man on a daily basis. There are 31 of them. They are non-benefited. This is all based on hours. It's not based on staff. Their positions are based on the position and the hours that they need to fill that. They make $24.19 an hour. They're the people that you see when you come into the courthouse, run you through the x-ray machines and whatnot. So we want to go back to our budget. We requested 75 million. You approved 69 million, and there's a deficit of what? 6.3 million. So if we compare 2013 budget to what we requested, what you approved, and the actual expenditures, we went over a little bit from what we actually requested and a lot from what you approved. This is our budget comparisons now with the arbitration. So we're figuring that the cost of the arbitration in 2012, $425,776. For fiscal year 2013, $942,288. And for fiscal year 2014, $1.4 million. And the difference that we have. So we feel that we're under budget, especially the arbitration is really going to put us behind budget. Some of the things we've done to reduce the budget, we've eliminated posts in the jail. We've moved our medical clinic time. We've eliminated an extra post in APOD. We've changed our DOC transports. Our video visitation, we changed from 12 hours a day to 8 hours a day. A lot of screaming and crying, or 16 hours a day to 8 hours a day. A lot of screaming and crying from people that want to see their loved ones in jail. We can't staff it. Comp time, overtime protocol. Creek, we reduced the hours in Creek. And then we've moved some sergeants around to fill some positions. We have sergeants that are doing double duty yesterday.
These budget reduction efforts, do we have a dollar value on these?
No, we don't have to. You can get them if you want. We've also eliminated positions. Those 17 non-funded positions, that's a saving of $2.3 million that we don't have. And we've shed from our budget. No, this is over time. Those 17 positions that we have not funded or are unfunded, that saves $2.3 million.
Is that reflected here?
No.
It's not.
It's over
Okay,
time.
so we would take that 2 point something and subtract it from your 6.
Well, that's my
No,
question.
we lost those over the years.
That's years, that's my question, what time frame are we talking?
Last 2 years.
Last 2 years?
Last 2 years.
This is actually 1 year's worth of savings.
Right, that's an annual rate, right?
Yes,
Correct?
this is annual. It
So
includes
whether it's
benefits and,
So that would be a direct subtraction from the 6 in order to
no,
come up
because these
with
weren't
the budget.
included.
That was my original
But I
question.
mean, they're
Are
not
those
included.
included in that budget?
No, they were unfunded, so
It's
because of
under the
the,
request.
We're still $6 million.
So,
No, I think they were included in your request.
I thought it was included in the request.
No, I'm sorry. These positions since 2011 have been eliminated from the sheriff office. But complete, from 17 positions.
From your request, then,
From 2011. Yes, it has reduced our request because we have reduced our staffing by 17.
those are all by attrition?
They're all by attrition.
You have a lot of nice charts there. Is that reflected anywhere in any of the charts? Where they were reduced, because you have a lot, yeah. Because you've got your numbers that you've been using, that you require for each one of these, and I was just curious if those reductions have been reflected in any of the.
The staffing numbers that we gave you reflect what our current staffing levels are as of today.
Okay.
Is that like,
Not counting those positions.
so that's how much we save, so really, Chuck, we were talking about that number, so that'd be what, 35 guys laid off to come up to about 5 million?
5 million, no, for 3 million, it'd be almost 7.
You're laying off the younger people, not the older people.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that are at 80,000 mark, no, you're laying off the $40,000.
So there'd be how many guys you saying, 70?
But if you took those for attrition, the top guys are going.
Yes, that's correct. When we did this, that's from attrition on the top guys who retired. On this one. Now, the other ones that we've done, of course, we just didn't fill. That would come up here.
So those positions are unfunded, which is completely eliminated off the books. But you have 10 funded positions that you still need to fill. What impact does that have?
Allison, those numbers on the 10 funded have been included.
They're included in the budget, yes. They're just like something just maybe, just last year.
You had a slide for the school resources for deputies, that originally paid for with a grant.
They originally granted for the grant.
Is that still needed? I mean, does the school understand that? I mean, the statistics available that said that we made this many arrests or
Well,
incidents.
I'll chime in on it. With the schools, we have the 5 of them. Originally branch checks. They're basically in the school. They take care of all the extracurricular activities, whether it's football games, basketball games, all the sports activities. School pays for all that. And when you see 1 sergeant and 4 deputies, or 5 deputies, they in turn, if you have you have something going on in Lincoln Way Central, all those people will work that sports incident at the school. So they rotate around all 5 schools. Are they in the school 1 each day? Yes. Do they handle incidents that occur in the school, whether it's fights or somebody might be charged for found in possession or something? Or they get the numerous phone calls, you know, there's a bomb in the place and all this other sort of stuff. That's why they're in the school. It has eliminated a lot of problems for us. If they have an incident in the school, the parents go to the school to see that deputy. They do the follow-ups. Then if they have something that's big, they turn it over to investigation, they take it from there. So anything that's extra, the school pays for. We don't pay for.
Well, all four of those little league schools are unincorporated.
Every school you see up there is unincorporated Will County.
But it does include several municipalities that have officers. It's unincorporated.
And that's just those schools. There are other friends.
The school in Franklin that are unincorporated, so just didn't.
Yeah, there are other schools.
The Lincoln Way schools, everyone is unincorporated.
The current deputies that are working in those programs, where are they on the pay scale?
They could be all over because that's a posted job, so they have to apply for it. Come summertime when you have vacations, at some point within that time frame, these deputies take their vacation and then they double back and they'll work a zone or they'll work another job we can give them while the school's closed down. So they do that, then they come back out and help. Same thing with civil process, when you shut down the courthouse, like an election day or whatever it is, those people in courthouse security, they all go other places within the department for that day.
And this district is covered by, I mean, because it's unincorporated, there are other sheriffs that are in patrol out there already, along with where those guys are housed,
Correct.
correct? So if there was a need to reduce, would the schools be open to, and I've worked in schools where they've actually had offices where deputies that do patrols in an area stop by, do paperwork in the office at the school, giving a presence to let the students know that there is a connection between law enforcement. And so a person doing a regional area out there or that district could stop by, do paperwork over at the school, that kind of stuff, versus having a deputy on site.
It sounds good, but it ain't never gonna happen. And the reason I say that is, you can tell somebody this is your area, this is your zone, when you get time stopping the school. If you don't have the time, he's not stopping in the school.
And that's okay. I mean, but when he does have time, he could stop by the school, do the paperwork, and the school's already paying for the additional overtime that these folks, when they're being asked to come and do games and things like that, correct?
Yes.
So then we wouldn't have to worry about the overtime. Is that overtime being, with this particular group, is that overtime being included in their retirement packages?
I would assume, yes.
Sure, two of those schools are not in.
Because it's not overtime.
I'm sorry?
Two of those schools are not in unincorporated.
They are unincorporated, all of them.
East is in Frankfurt.
East is not.
No, it's there, but it's.
Central is not in Lennox either?
Unincorporated.
Unincorporated.
They were never incorporated.
I thought they were.
Carved out the area around.
But I might add,
You walk across the street.
From Frankfurt.
Right. They don't get no
Look,
money.
those schools have you take Lincoln Way North, probably 70% of that school is unincorporated kids.
Yeah.
Just because it's identified with Frankfurt, don't think that these kids don't come from unincorporated areas. Many of them do. So, I know you are anxious to dump on Frankfurt. and I know you're anxious to dump on Lincoln Way, and that's fine. If you want to eliminate those programs, eliminate them. But I doubt if it was you would be saying this. It was, I think, coming from somewhere else. But that is certainly an area that can be cut, probably. Can I ask a question? Another question outside of the schools. Court security. Can you explain to me the difference between court security officers and deputies? And in our court, I know some are people that who does some court security between civilians and deputies. And I always say civilians. They're still security officers. And the retired policemen still have police powers?
Yes, when they work in CSOs within the courthouse.
Okay. So they can carry weapons if you want.
They do carry weapons.
They do carry weapons.
And they have, they're carded by the sheriff's office and they can make an arrest there, yes. Court security, CSOs as we call them, they're the retired guys handle the x-ray machines and the metal detectors and all this other stuff. Now, if you recall, when the county board came to me and asked me to take this program, because it was under RBJ before,
Right.
And there was a little problem there, and of course, I'm on be nice guy, and I said yes. I'm a nice guy, no. But the point is, we took the program over, we made it legal, and they charge the county whatever it is, 24 or 16 something, whatever it is now, no benefits. We needed the additional personnel in the courthouse. I had to move deputies upstairs because we're still opening up more courtrooms, we've gotten more judges, and everybody keeps putting the pressure on us that we have to cover it, and we don't have the personnel. So the CSOs took over on the first floor, shoved all the deputies up into the top floor. And then, of course, the deputies didn't want to file grievance on me because I took their jobs away. Well, I didn't take their jobs away, I just moved them upstairs, so we had that battle to fight. Over time, they've got one in the Uncle building now because they're afraid of people coming in there. You got one in the state's attorney's office and so forth and so forth. That has saved us a bundle of money. They do it the powers, they're all, when I first took it over, there was a political appointees. There was at least 5 people I discharged. There were not ever a police officer or correctional officer, and if they couldn't pass physical agility, they were also discharged, so it's a good
Along
system.
those same lines, bailiffs, are bailiffs part of court security? Or are they just hanging out with the judge?
The bailiffs are not part of court security. They work for the judge, the chief judge. They handle the juries, the jurors, moving the jurors back and forth. They're in courtrooms where there's traffic. We don't have a court security officer assigned to the traffic courtroom. So they're more of an administrative function for the judge, and they're not paid for from the sheriff's office.
No, by law, they should come under the sheriff's office,
That was my next question.
but I don't want them. I don't want them. Because half of them I'd have to fire. I mean, they're just political appointees, and Cameron wasn't worried about it. I'm worried about the lady with the pen in her hand.
Oh.
Me too.
I know they tried asking Judge White a while back for me to do it, and I told him I didn't want it. I don't need another line item in my budget. I don't need somebody else telling me I got too many people. So they're strictly administrative, like they say, move juries, paperwork, find this. Now you go to Cook County, they got their own separate animal. I mean, they got guys in this color shirts doing that job, they got guys in this color shirt doing that job. They got deputies, they got almost deputies, they got could have been deputies, and then they got deputies. I mean, they got titles that would knock your socks off. So, yeah, they're supposed to be under me.
But then but they're not. Then if they're not under you, they're not court security.
No,
they're not armed.
they come under chief judge and they're strictly administration.
They're not armed.
And have nothing to do with court security.
No.
The sheriff says they mainly escort jurors.
But it could be court security. It could be.
Not in my lifetime.
Not your tenure, your lifetime. Your lifetime here ends around December 1st. Probably not your life, but your lifetime here.
Sheriff, it look like you're down 4 deputies, personal insurance.
I'm sorry, sir.
You're down 4 deputies.
4 vacant positions.
We currently have 4 deputy vacancies. We also have 9 deputy positions that have been eliminated. So as of today's date, we have 13, we're down 13 now.
You can't count the 9 because you can't invite without the 9.
Right. 4 currently. That 9, you see, I can't count that 9. But that 9 that I don't have is tremendously impacting my overtime, which I'm being scrutinized as my overtime.
So
That 9 deputies.
so another 17 would impact it more.
Correct. You reduce about another 17.
Can he explain the, how he takes the people and splits them up and how that?
John, this presentation came on talking to Chief McDowell over here, and he'll explain how we can come from 170 plus deputies down to what he has.
I currently have about 96 uniforms in patrol. So I have 3 shifts that I have to operate.
look at my calls for service, and I adjust my numbers that way. So currently, right now, I'm running 30 on days, 34, 35 and a half, going down my numbers in front of me, about 33 on middays. Now, when I say that, you gotta understand there's time off, and there's benefit time, and contractual time, and sickness, and training, and school, and all of that. So at the end of the day, I could start my shift in an ideal world on either one of my 3 shifts with 17, 16, 18 people. That's on a good day. As of December 1, I'm no longer hiring overtime. So I have 14 deputies on day shift. I have 14 deputies. If I have 12, I have 12. If I have 17, I'm happy. Now that's ideal, 17. Now, when the river breaks loose down south when it's thaws, that 17 is going to get eaten up really quick. I know it's coming. I can't tell you what day it's coming, but that's going to impact my staff. Because we're going to have road closures and problems, and those are things that you just can't predict. Tornadoes, things of that nature, I can't predict. Car accident out on 57 a couple weeks ago in the snow, that would have been us. I got 17, 15 cars.
Or an active shooter in Romanville.
An active shooter at one of these schools, one of our worst nightmares. So if anybody can tell me how to get more out of the 30 bodies or so per shift, I'll be glad to listen.
And you split those into how many different zones?
Well, it depends on how many I have. Like the undersheriff stated, I redid the zones about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years ago to incorporate different boundaries. So if I have less people, I make the boundaries bigger on my zone so I can cover. So, I mean, ideally, I could get down to 7 zones in the county if you want. I can get up to as many as 12 or 14 depending on the cars that I have. Okay?
I guess the bottom line goes, if you cut those staff, then whose district is gonna be lacking? Who's gonna answer to their constituents that instead of having 3 deputies there per shift, you're now down to 2 or maybe 1?
Sheriff, we would be answering to our constituents. That's who we have to answer to. At the end of the day, though, I mean, we have to consider what the cost is associated with that. And I have not heard one complaint from my constituents about the lack of sheriff's deputies in my district at all. And so I have to consider, we all have to consider what the extra cost is going to be, where that money's going to come from. It's tough. It's tough.
So, emergency happens. I mean, I know you're not setting up, and I think that is fiscally responsible, what you're saying you're doing, is that rather than apply for overtime, you've already figured out how you can take your district and expand them on the number of people that you have in. If there's an emergency, that's a phone call to your folks to come in and get overtime at that point, right? And I think reasonable men and women would consider that a reasonable thing to pay when they're, and we've had that discussion in finance for a number of years, that when we've been shown that overtime was for those kind of reasons, we were glad to look for ways to find dollars. And I really do appreciate what you're saying, and that you're trying to take your zones and rather than put on overtime just because you're short a few people and you have your, what would be optimal numbers, you're looking at, doing that. I think that I want to commend you for that, because in that last snowstorm, and I said this at the county board, your group did a really nice job, and our highway commissioner was very pleased with the way you guys responded up in our areas. I don't know how much overtime you pulled, and we don't need to get into that right now, but the way you responded in these last couple snowstorms has been commendable.
But there can be side effects to that, just so you understand. Side effects would be response time. Because some of them zones could end up being 30 square miles.
Oh, yeah, out my way.
Hey, I'm up in Wheatland, okay? I know what the response time is. Sometimes
So I'm
it's
saying
get
there
people
are
up there.
some side effects. However, with the hope that surrounding communities, municipalities would be there for us if we needed the help, like Romeoville requested from us the other day to go there. Unlike the ADF, the 46 square miles out there, I got 300,000 feet. I don't have that luxury of saying, well, we're short 2 or 3 today, maybe some municipality can come in and help us. We got a man post. So unlike the street, we can't run short in the jail. We just can run minimum. And being short already, we're always having the overtime because the judges don't care about us when they make the court orders. They don't take us into consideration. They just say do it. And we've got no other choice.
And I think that's what Steve was talking about earlier, and seeing if we can't go in and find other revenue sources with that pre-trial, be able to cover some of those costs. That's been a discussion that's gone on for a long time. I know you're feeling, Paul, we've had that discussion for years, and, you know, we'll just have to continue to have the discussion, I guess, until we can find some dollars for this.
Sheriff, I just have one other question for you. It would help me, I think. Do we have any statistics that show response times and how they maybe increased or decreased over the last?
We do have statistics on response time, but I don't know if it shows any per se increase right now, because we just started this since December, not hiring anybody. You know, we just started this here, the last time we had the big thing about overtime, I mean, we put a kibosh on it. And we were running with one sergeant on the road. I can't do that no more, because how can a sergeant go from Creek to handle an incident and be a supervisor up in Plainfield? Can't do it. You can't do it. And there are some calls, face it, I need a supervisor on it, especially if it's a shooting call or something like that. So I gotta have a minimum of 2. And that don't count the sergeant that's working home with Glenn by the contract that they're paying for. And what happens is, like we said earlier, if somebody calls in sick or on vacation, you gotta replace them from patrol. So no, we don't have per se right now the statistics show an increase, decrease. We do have the statistics to show the response.
Okay, I think that would be helpful.
I'd like to tell you, if you really want to see how it works, please take advantage and come out on a ride-along to see how it's working out in patrols. Come down to the jail and see how that jail works. You'll have a better understanding of what we're doing on a daily basis.
I mean, when you look at our numbers, like we stated in the start of the presentation, 636, oh my God, he's got the biggest budget, he's got all employees. But when you start cutting it down into parts of the pie, A, B, C, D, and E, we don't have enough in each part of that pie anymore. We just don't have that much in that piece of the pie.
Okay.
Now, I have, and it didn't show that, but I have here recently, I've cut two deputy chief positions. I got deputy chiefs doing work. I've cut the PIO office out of there. I got a deputy chief doing that work. Now, those are top salaries, but they're doing work now. Now, could it be a problem down the line because something gets missed? Yep. And I'm letting you know that right now. I'm letting you know that right now. But I've cut those positions.
If I might too, I know the school resource officers come under my command, and I know it's a very valid point. There were grants, those grants expired, we kept those people in those schools. Those schools are communities. I mean, we're talking schools, correct me if I'm wrong, over 2,500 students in each of those schools. So you're talking 4 high schools, over 10,000 kids, 5 days a week. And you know, that one, we would typically have more than one deputy covering 10,000. Here's the part we can't put a figure on, and this is the hard part with law enforcement. We know when an incident happens because we record it. With having that guy in there, or gal, whatever the case may be, we don't know what we stopped because we don't know what we don't know, if you follow what I'm saying. They establish rapport with these kids. They establish rapport with the administration, and if they stop an incident, we're unaware of it, you know, how do you account for those sorts of things? You look at Plainfield school districts, you look at the Joliet school districts. School resource officers are in all those schools. Now, I know that may be an area where you go, well, you could grab 4 deputies out of there. Yes, we could. But do we want to do that in this day and age? I personally, my recommendation is no, we don't. I know that overtime, that's covered by them, but you know, those are the kids, and I think as a parent myself, I like to know the fact that there is an officer there, he has that report, kids do come to him, we learn things, we learn people are considering bringing guns, there's bomb threats, there's all these things that are going on in that high school environment. That,
especially on test day.
Yeah. That's a real popular bomb threat day or a fire alarm day. But they're there when the kids get off the bus. They're there till the kids.
Experience.
Yeah. And the other, and I want to say this too, like with spring break coming up, these guys all are getting reassigned this time around to our annual sex offender registration confirmation thing that we're mandated by law. So they don't get the week off. Now they're going around knocking on all the doors with the registered sex offenders, confirming that those are still good addresses and things like that. So we're always robbing Peter to pay Paul, if I might.
And Paul ain't getting paid.
So I just wanted to just say that. I understand it may be a popular choice, but that's a tough decision to make.
And then the other thing is, like it was suggested with the, quite some time ago with the overweight truck fund detail. You get the deputies, as that's own, those deputies are out of the school, he gets a call that he's gotta do 2 or 3 hours of interviewing this or that and the other. Who's answering the rest of his call? Somebody from another zone, and then it just dominoes after that.
Can I say something too? I think once you guys, these projects out east come in, that's really gonna hit these guys for the response time, because you're talking a ton of road closures. So now they're not gonna be able to take this road to that road, they're gonna have to take this road, go 4 miles this way, come back that way, go this way. So that's gonna change response time out east tremendously, and he won't be able to do what the group of guys he's got now, because they won't be able to cover that time.
I think that just to kind of summarize, as far as the school officers go, something we can talk about. I don't know, did you ever approach the school district for compensation when the grants were out? Would they have just said, keep them home if they had to pay for it?
They just had to cut their ROTC program, they're not gonna pay anyone.
Because they're getting a service that.
I understand that, but they won't pay.
Well, then that's a decision we may need to make, and they may need to make. That was just one point. And the other thing is I kind of had a conversation with these guys last week, and I thought this would be a good presentation for everybody to understand. When we were talking about cutting the officers, I think that they're trying to do the best they can with the officers they've got. They've kind of already self-cut a lot of these positions, and I don't think you guys are at the level that has been authorized.
No, even the levels that you have resolution on enforcement and corrections, we're not even at that level now.
Exactly.
We weren't at that level even before the cuts we made.
So if we cut it, is it really going to impact because they're already operating at those levels? So
Well, what's the number of crews?
I'm sorry?
What's the number of crews?
I think the deputies was 300 at one time, wasn't it?
No, that's when we had correction officers.
Yeah, I know, and then we cut it
I
down.
want to say we were, with Sergeant Lieutenant, we were at about 300.
300, yeah. And we've got, what, 179? So we got about 180 out of 300.
and that counted all the
But you got
the supervisor staff.
No, those are just
Sworn officers?
175 deputies.
Yes, but when you talk about sworn officers, that's everybody. So if we were at 300, we're at how many actually?
Well, you had a new resolution that gave the exact number of corrections and an exact number of deputies.
Right.
That was what was on.
I was just trying to compare that to where you're at.
Yeah, as far as the deputies, we're not even close to it, we've never been close to it. As far as corrections, we are close to it, but we're still short from the survey that we never had.
But we don't, but you're not, we haven't authorized you to go all the way to the survey. And I think that the ADF is probably an area where we need to look at it. But right now, I just thought this would be helpful before we start talking about cutting. We also now have to figure out how we're gonna pay for where you're at. Not giving you any more, unfortunately.
Question, your 911, what's your budget on that specifically? How much money you use?
For telecommunications?
Yes, that's so expensive.
Million, I'm not, can't give you the exact number.
Well, staff-wise, it's $1.7 million.
It's over 2 million.
It probably is with everything. Yeah. I'm just talking about staffing costs. That's what it's on page 3, 4.
For the schools that they were originally covered with the grant, have we looked to see if there's other grant money out there, is it the school's responsibility, or
There's no other.
there's no money? I just wanted to ask you.
It's one of those deals where they give it to you one time,
To get you in and then.
they don't come around
Right.
anymore.
How many years have we been doing this?
I'm sorry, sir?
How many years have we been in the schools without the grant?
Oh, man, this question.
I think with the schools, I know we're talking like maybe we don't need them or something, but all we need is one incident like they've had in other school districts, colleges, where they've got a shooting. And if we're preventing it by having that one guy there, I don't think I'd want to be the one that makes the decision to cut that school when there's a shooting in that school. It's a big issue.
I think we'd have to have that discussion with the administration over there and see what their thoughts are regarding that. But as a board member for both that district for 7 years, there was rarely an incident, there was rarely a concern.
Okay.
Rarely saw the sheriff's police there. but it's something that we have to discuss with the board.
Okay.
Is there any discussion that we would do anything about the person at Fairmont? Or are we only talking about the giveaways? Okay. That's how he said it. All right.
Any other questions, discussion? Thanks.
Thanks for bringing the presentation.
Thank you.
You will be, but
So they're all incorporated, they're all in town, they're
That's what I'm saying. They have his own car, and he can't really catch.
Well, the estimate, actually,
Was that one outside?
I don't have an extra, they might have an extra copy of it. Did you just want the numbers?
Not our kids.
Not yet, but I can't do it today. You need it, they don't have it. I can do it. And Nick, real quick, did you? I just was asked to get my, I know you're busy.
Yeah, without a uniform there, real trouble. I'm saying, real trouble.